Hi, friends. We're going to start taking some math notes. So, you also received a set of math papers in your Friday folder. So, I want to explain those and then we'll start the notes. You have some facts here and you have a place value chart. Okay, so let's talk about the chart first. This is for you. If you need it to reference anything, we will use this. I'll read off some numbers and I'll have you write them in together. Okay. But it just kind of goes over your place value to the right and to the left of our decimal. Okay. So if you want to set this aside, you can even fold it for now and stick it into your science notebook. Okay. So you may have a colorful notebook you want to use for your science notes. You may have another lab book that you want to use. Make sure if you're using this one that you don't mix your science lab book and your math notes. Okay, I don't want to see math notes in your science lab book. It's really important you keep those separate. So you may want to go with the colorful one just so it's easy. I'm going to use this one. I would rather use the colorful one, but for you, I think it would be better for me to write in here because it is wide ruled. That means the spaces are bigger. It will be easier for you to see my very beautiful handwriting. Okay, so I have this. I'm going to fold it and just stick it in to my lab book. Okay, so let's talk about your math fact papers. This week for homework, I want you to try and do one side every day. Okay, and then you have this baby sheet. You might have a different one than the forest. This should be a quick sheet. Maybe start with this, get it done. You can start on division if you want, multiplication. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. You may be feeling very mathy and facty, and you may want to do two sides one day and then two sides the next day. I want you to try and time yourself so that even you use a phone or a stopwatch so that you know how many minutes it took you to get the whole thing completed. If it takes more than 6 minutes, don't worry about it, but try and let me know. Okay. And then you don't need to score these. You can have a parent or older sibling score for you, but I will score them when you turn them back into me at the next Friday pickup drop off. Okay. So you've got multiplication, fairly friendly. I don't see any 12s, 11s, 9s, 8s, 7s. So this should feel pretty comfy for you. Okay. Backside, same thing, pretty comfy. Whew. Okay, then we're getting into division. And same with the multiplication, right? They're not using all of our fact families. They're kind of focusing on the earlier ones, okay, the 1 through 5s. So I felt that these are not too rough on the Overland Trail for you, okay? So try and get these done. If you could get them done this week, that's great, because then next week you won't have to worry about them and we can go straight into multiplication. So that is part of your homework. So make sure you have those, you have your name on them, and you're ready to turn those back into Miss Pupley at the next pickup. Okay, let's start taking some notes, and I'm hopefully not going to take too long. I just want to write some notes because you can use these notes for assignments, for quizzes, for tests, and then I find that a lot of times, even if I feel like I know something or I really know it, it helps me to kind of write notes. It solidifies the concept in my mind, and it helps me to just make sure I know everything perfectly, especially for math. Okay, so we're going to start with place value because that's what we've been working on for chapter 1. Okay, so I might put chapter 1. Ooh, I'm going to grab a pen because I'm noticing that when I write and pencil, it's very hard to see on this document camera. So I'm going to use a pen. I'm living dangerously. Using a pen in math. And I don't usually like to write in pen because I make so many mistakes. I like to be able to erase it. And also I smear. So fingers crossed this works out. Okay, chapter 1. So together together with me, you can take notes. I'm going to write out a place value chart. Okay. I'm not going to use a ruler, but if you want to grab a ruler, that might be helpful for you because we are going to make kind of a little chart what I will use is, I'll use the edge of this, okay? So I'm going to make, let's see, a decimal, okay? And I'm going to draw some lines right here. So right after the decimal, I'm going to work kind of on the newer stuff since this is fresh in our minds. I have these are all my okay? So this is values that are less than 1, but greater than 0. I'm going to zoom in. Ooh, that was nice for me. Now you'll see. Okay, so I have right here tenths. So I'm going to tenths, okay? My next one, hundredths. Ooh. Then last one, thousandths. I'm not very happy with this. You can already see my lovely handwriting. So I'm going to circle it so it kind of stays out of the way. Okay. Then here on this side, I have ones, tens, hundreds. Then I'm going to go, well, this was terrible. Look at, I don't even have room. It's not good. I'm going to start over. Okay, sorry. Chapter 1. You guys know what you're doing, so you keep going. Okay, I'm going to go lower. Tenths. Hundredths. Thousandths. All right. Everything smaller than 1. I don't know if I'm going to have all the room. We'll see. Ones, tens, hundreds. Now I have a comma. Thousands. 10,000s. 100,000s. Now, millions. Okay. So this is review, obviously, for us. And I'm not getting into the billions or the trillions or the quadrillions. But what I really want us to focus on is this decimal point and knowing that these values that are less than 1 but greater than 0 are considered the tss. Remember, you should almost be spitting that when you say it. Okay, and that this is everything after our decimal. So I may even get a cool color and maybe even highlight, right, this decimal right here. That's very important. Okay, so that's our place value chart. Obviously, I had to rip out my first page. I hope I didn't mess you guys up. It's not easy to write out these words, okay? So don't worry, it's not a spelling test, but I want you to know that the millions is 10 times bigger than the 100,000s place, okay? So one thing that we know is when we are going to the right, we are getting smaller by 10, so we're dividing by 10. And when we are going to the left, we are increasing by 10. So we're multiplying by 10, right? So if I have 1, I multiply by 10, I have 10, multiply by 10, 100, multiply by 10, 1,000, so on and so forth, okay? So now I may write even times 10, okay? And I might write divided by 10 so that I remember that if I'm getting smaller, it's by a power of 10. If I'm getting larger, it's by a power of 10. Okay, now let's talk about word form, standard form, and expanded form. So I'm going to give you a number, and I will use the decimal since we are familiar now with decimals. So say I have standard form. Standard form is basically the number, okay? So if you go into your book and you go to page, I'm in my math book right now, to my vocabulary cards, which are on page 5, I would love, look how nice that place value chart is. Well, I could have just cut that and pasted it, Pepley. Well, yeah, but this kind of helped us in our minds map out the place value chart, okay? If you want to cut that out and put that right here, I would love that. I think that would look awesome. Same with the standard form, okay? So what I'm going to do, because I'm a visual learner and I like pretty pictures, and since my handwriting is not that great, I'm not the one that usually can create those pretty pictures. I'm going to take the standard form and I'm going to glue it right there. Okay, so standard form is basically our number. Now you could have already cut these out or used them, so don't feel like you have to use these. I'm just putting this in because it helps me. Okay, so standard form, this is obviously expanded. Standard form, wish I had a highlighter right now. Oh, I thought I just saw him right there. Okay, so standard form is the number. Okay, now expanded form. Remember when I take it, I break it apart. So expanded form, expanded form is, I'll put an arrow right up here because we have our expanded form right here. So that's why I thought that could be cool. So expanded form is the number broken apart to represent the place values. Okay, so we're breaking it apart into our thousands place, our hundreds place, our tens place, and our ones place. Okay, so we're taking the number and we're breaking it apart. Expanded form, you should only have one number in each of your sections. If you have more than one, then you need to break it up more. Okay, so expanded form is the number, I'm going to quote it, broken into place values. Okay, so example. Let's do another example. Example. 564 and 31 hundredths. This equals, okay, 500 plus 60 plus 4 plus, don't forget to put your 0 decimal, that way we don't have any accidents, 3/10 plus of 1/100th. Okay, so if I step back and look at this, I should only see one number in each of my sections. All right, now we are not done because we have word form. Okay, so word form of a number is basically taking the number and writing it in words. And that is pretty friendly to remember. So word form. Let's go with the number. Let's take our number from this last one. 564 and 31 hundredths. So I'm going to carefully take my time and write out the number. So I'm going to start off with 500. 500. 64. 64. I never use ands. The only time I will write an and in a number is for the decimal. And. Okay, so and is for the decimal. Now I have to write out 31 hundredths. So every time I have like a 64, 31, 22, I use a hyphen. 564 and 31 hundredths. I didn't need this comma here. Sorry. I will use the comma in between my place values. Maybe you caught that and you're like, why did she put that comma there? If you did, good for you, extra credit points. Yay. Okay, so we have our standard form, which is basically the number. Okay, so the number is 3,491 right here. An example would be 564 and 31 hundredths. Okay, so that's standard form. That's your straight number. That's what we're used to. Expanded form, we do this to show the value of each place, right? So how many hundreds do I have? Well, I have 5 of them. How many tens? I have 6. How many ones? 4. And then when you break it apart, you can see that much easier. Then we have word form, so that you can spell it out. 564 and 31 hundredths. I need to write that out. Okay. If you want to cut out the expanded form vocabulary card, you don't have to, but if you have these, remember page 5 in your math book, I think it's really cool to cut them out and maybe even put them on this side so that you can have a little bit of color in your lab, or not your lab book, your math notebook. Okay, so you've got a lot of different, so obviously I wouldn't put expanded form here. I'm going to put it, if I had room, down here. So I don't have room on my first page, but I do have room over here. So that's where I'm going to glue it. Okay, and hopefully my notes aren't too rough. Like I said, my handwriting is not the best, so I would maybe type out my notes for you. But there's something to be said about handwriting. These notes are for you. So as long as you can understand them, that is what's important. But you also should be able to understand mine. Oh, so let's get on to the next thing. Let's compare numbers. Okay, so we're going to compare and order numbers. So, comparing numbers. Comparing numbers. So this is when I'm talking greater than, less than, and equal to. Okay, so remember the bigger number, we're always going to have the bigger section of this open triangle pointing or facing the bigger number. If you were younger, you probably drew in some teeth because crocodiles always want to eat the bigger number. They're very hungry. I always try to remember if something is smaller, I'm trying to point to it so someone can see it because it's so small. So that's how I remember you point to the small number. If numbers are equal, obviously they have the same value, we use that sign. Okay, so I like to go like this, just so I know my smaller number versus the bigger number. Okay, and I'll write bigger number bigger number with the open, I'm going to call it triangle. Okay. Okay, so now this would mean that the smaller number is the one that goes with the smaller point of the triangle. Okay, smaller number. So let's just do some examples. And when comparing or ordering numbers, it's always important if you have any numbers to line them up. Okay, so we'll take a couple numbers. So we'll go 32 and 503 thousandths versus 32 and 553 hundredths. Okay. Ooh, tricky. So I need to decide what goes in this box. Which number is bigger? Okay, that's the one that I want to have the big section of my open triangle. So how do I do this? Well, I can maybe visually see, but the best way to make sure you are exactly right when ordering numbers is to rewrite them. I know it might take another 2 seconds, but now we can compare them. So you start with the biggest digit first, right? I don't really care about the thousandths. I've got to look at the tens. So here I go. 3's the same. 2's are the same. We have 5 in the tenths place. Those are the same. Ooh, okay. Well, obviously 3 is bigger than 0, and we have 3 in the hundredths. So I am going to compare it, and this is the bigger number. Okay? Turning the page. Remember, you can always pause and go slow if I'm going too fast. Now, for ordering numbers, we do a similar strategy, except we have more numbers to deal with. So let's take our example. Say I have 13.24, first number, comma. So 13 and 24 hundredths. 13 and 51 hundredths. 13 and 9 hundredths. And 13 and 91 hundredths. Okay, so we have numbers that are pretty close. When you're dealing with decimals, always think money. If you're getting stuck, money always helps us kind of understand the decimals. So I'm going to put these in order, and it depends on what they ask you. Least to greatest, greatest to least. So let's go least to greatest. Okay? And then we're going to order them greatest to least. So biggest, so smaller to bigger, bigger to smaller. Okay, the biggest value to the smallest value. So first things first, I need to line all these numbers up. I always start with the decimal because, like I told you, I like to call decimals decimales because they remind me of tamales. And I love tamales. And not only that, but when you're dealing with decimals, comparing, adding, and subtracting, you always need to line them up. Okay, so if I have a tamale, I want it to be nice and tight and compacted and straight, right? I don't want a boomerang tamale. So now that I have them lined up, I can easily visually order and compare them. So I look at my tens place. They're all ones. Look at the ones place. They're all threes. Ugh, I have to go to the tenths place. So right away, I see least to greatest. Okay, so I see this one. I might even put a 1 here because that tells me that's my smallest. Now I can see that 2 is the next smallest number, and then 5, and then 9. Okay, so I didn't go to the hundreds place. I was able to figure out the order just in the tenths place. I'm going to take these notes up here, and I'm going to rewrite least to greatest. So my first number is 13 and 9 hundredths. My second number, 13 and 24 hundredths. Then I have 13 and 51 hundredths, followed by 13 and 91 hundredths. Okay. Always good to kind of go back, make sure it looks good, check it out, least to greatest. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Now we are going to go greatest to least. So I'm going to erase it and do the same steps over. Okay, I know that in my tens place, we all have the same digit. Ones place, same digit. Now I can judge them using the tenths. 9's my biggest number. Okay, so I'm going biggest all the way down. 5 is next, then 2, and then 3. So this helps me order them when I write it next to it, and then I can go back and say, okay, biggest number, 13 and 91 hundredths. Then my next biggest, 13 and 51 hundredths. Then I have 13 and 24 hundredths. Finally, 13 and 9 hundredths. I know it's when I'm left-handed, I'm covering up everything you need to write down. I can't help it, my friends. It is what it is. Okay, so There we go on ordering and comparing numbers. Okay, so for today, the notes I want us to take, and your notes may look different. We have different examples. Hopefully yours looks better than my place value, because I had to rip out the first page too. So what I would probably do for my place value is glue these up here, because then that kind of helps me. This looks very nice compared to my chicken scratch handwriting. Okay. Maybe I should have been a doctor. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to cut out my place value and put it right here so that I can make sure it's correct. Okay. So hindsight, that means looking back, I probably could have skipped a page, right, and started over here. But that's okay. As long as the notes are mainly for me, writing them down is really what helps me to remember. Okay, so I have chapter 1. I have a quick place value chart. Okay, obviously we have tens, millions, 100 millions, billions, 10 billions. The tenths, hundreds, and thousands are really what we need to really learn for this chapter. Okay, this is kind of new area stuff. Standard form, basically your number. Expanded form, you're taking out a number, you're breaking it apart to show the specific values. Then we have word form, which is taking that number, writing it in words, no more numbers for this. And then we started with comparing numbers, right? The bigger section is always going to get to the bigger number. I really learned this using my little teeth. And I know, like, oh my gosh, that's so baby, Miss Pep. But, I'm food driven. If I'm hungry and I go to the store, I'm going to buy the biggest burrito there. I'm not going to waste my time with a little burrito because I know this is what I want. I want to eat this. So that's how I remember with my teeth. Give me the big burrito. Remember also your smaller number goes with the smallest point. Okay, and then when they're equal, that's the equal sign, obviously. Let's do one example of equal. Okay, so if I have 54 and 4/10, and then I have 54.400. Ooh, this is a bigger number, right? No. Okay, that's the same. I can even add another 0. Still the same value. Could add a 0 here. Same value. Okay, so this is an example of equal values, although this number may have more zeros. Okay, still the same value. You're still at $54.40. Okay. Now, next page. Dun, 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 dun. We wrote about ordering numbers. Okay, so least to greatest, smallest to biggest. If you need to write that in, if least is kind of awkward for you, write smallest to biggest. And that will help you remember least to greatest. Okay? I'm going to stop us right here. Not because I don't think we could write more math notes, but I think for now, this is enough for you. Obviously, this probably is enough for me too. Our next video, we're going to look at taking decimals into fractions into picture form. Okay, good job, friends. I'm sure yours look a lot fancier and prettier than mine. Bye, until the next notes.